there's 3 steps that you need to follow to crush Q4 sales. We just did a full live stream, but well, that was over an hour long. And I want Chris to actually give us a full breakdown. And if you can do this in under 10 minutes, that would be amazing. So everyone else can benefit from what we just shared. So Chris, what are those 3 steps to crush Q4?
So there's 3, and then there's a bunch inside of that, but let's just break it down to the 3 big ones. The first thing, and you and I have talked about this in the past, anytime somebody says, hey, what's possible on Etsy, or how can I get to this goal? We have to reverse engineer what our goal is. We need to know what the target is before we can really create the rest of the plan to start to shoot for that target, right? If we blindfold ourselves and just say, I'm going to create as many designs as possible and see what happens, that's not a great approach. And so what we did is we took a look at what happened in your store last year in Q4, and we start with the profit in mind. We can have $200,000 in sales, but if we make $5 from that, it's not great at the end of the day. So what we're really looking at is reverse engineering the profit target. In your case, you averaged, I think it was between 35 and 40%. We went with the real low end of that. We said, okay, we did about $30,000 in profit after ad spend, after product cost, after all of those kinds of things. So if we're thinking about Q4, which for e-commerce really runs from September through December, it's not 3 months, it's closer to 4. Then we need to make $250 a day in profit to get to that $30,000 number. Obviously, all you have to do is take your ideal profit number and divide that by 120, right? That's how many days you would have roughly in that period. That's how we got to $30,000. A little bit of more math here for everybody is we also want to break that down to the sales per day level. And if we can make $12 per profit, $12 per sale in profit, that would mean we need 21 sales a day, right? To be able to get to that. That gives us actually, Scott, $2 extra to work with on a daily basis, but I'm okay with overestimating what we would need, and we can't get half a sale. So let's shoot for that 21 instead of 20.8 or whatever the math actually. So set that profit target, divide that by the number of days and the amount of profit in dollars that you typically make. And that will tell you how many sales per day that you need to make. Now, Scott, I think where a lot of people mess up with this is they think that is the number, that is absolutely the number that they have to shoot for. Once you know that baseline number, right? We're saying, hey, we need at our current levels, 21 sales per day. Where can I change and improve before we start creating things, before we just go whole hog and launching as many products as possible? Is there a place for me to change or improve my margins? If we're averaging $12 in profit per sale, can I make that $13, $14, or $15 by making some changes? Something like moving to Printify Premium, where you're saving up to 20% on your cost of goods. And in some cases, even more than that, that can make a huge difference, right? If we add 20% to our margins, that takes us down to 16, 17 sales a day instead of the 21 sales a day. The other place where a lot of people can save on this is by optimizing, not turning off, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, but optimizing Etsy ads, cutting out some of the excess spend. That will also improve. So anything we can do to improve our margins then reduces that number of sales a day. Let's say we have everything perfectly optimized. We know what that number is. We know it's going to be that 20 or 21 sales a day. Then what do we do? Step number 2 is going to be finding products that are in demand, and the key here, Scott, adding products on. So things that go with other things. And when you and I talk about products that are in demand, we're typically talking about the designs, not the product itself, right? When people talk about a product, a lot of times they will say, hey, I saw that people were selling mugs. They're selling a lot of mugs, so that's what I'm going to rock and roll with. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is the design itself. And what we're really looking for here are higher profit items, right? Mugs, typically not going to have a great profit margin, but things like pillows, blankets, pajamas, tree skirts, all of those kinds of things have much higher margins and have a higher perceived value. And so if we can find a design that's doing well in our market and a product type that has a higher margin, we've found kind of that perfect marriage between the two. But the first step that we're going to be doing here is by taking a look at what sold last year and what is selling well this year around the specific holidays. So what's selling well for Halloween? What's selling well for Thanksgiving? What's selling well for Christmas, specifically in our niche? So if we're selling bass fishing stuff, which bass fishing designs sold really well at Halloween, Thanksgiving, or Christmas last year? How can we adapt those, make them our own, and go from there. Once we have those designs, then we can start to take a look at the different items. Even if we find a design that's selling well on a mug, we can apply that to some of the higher profit things, even if those aren't the in-demand products on Etsy. Because once we get a customer, we know that a customer in that niche is likely to buy other things. And if we've gotten them in the past, even if it's not something that they're looking for actively or people are actively buying on Etsy, when they come back to our shop, when we drive them back with email or we get that ad in front of them, they're extremely likely to buy it, even if that's not the thing that is currently in demand from a physical product standpoint. So don't let that bog you down. Don't get stuck on the actual product type. Focus on the design to start with. We can always apply that across a variety of different higher profit items, even if we're not seeing the specific demand for those. And I think the sub point, Scott, so 2B that I want to make here is people often miss out on ways to increase the cart value or the value of that customer. One of the easiest ways to do this is to think about what the next thing is that somebody would need or something that they would buy together. If you are buying a Christmas tree bowl, chances are you're buying a Christmas tree skirt. And for those of you guys wondering what a Christmas tree bowl is, I'm thinking about like the Christmas tree watering things. I don't know what they're called. You guys can figure it out, right? But if you're buying a Christmas tree skirt, you might buy that. You're probably buying some Christmas ornaments. Another way to think about this, blankets, maybe you're buying some pillows, maybe you're buying some pajamas. If you're buying luggage, a luggage tag, a travel journal, right? Any of those kinds of things, if they go together, figure out a way to include those in your store as well. And what you'll see when you do that is not only do you get to put a couple extra lines in the water from an SEO organic traffic standpoint, but you'll start to see that average customer value really start to sneak up because they're going to say, hey, I'm buying the new luggage. I need a new luggage tag anyway. My old one got caught up in that baggage carousel in Houston that one time and it got ripped off. So let me go ahead and get the bag tag that goes along with the luggage. You have increased your order size. You've increased the profits and you haven't had to acquire an additional customer. Plus you've made your customer's life a heck of a lot easier because they've already gotten all of the things that they need from you. So if you're looking for products, find things that are in demand from a design standpoint. Look for the higher profit items that you can apply them to, blankets, pillows, pajamas, tree skirts, even some of the ornaments that you can find. Places like Printify have really good demand and go from there. One of the best ways to do this, as Scott just threw up on the screen here for us, is by using something like Everbee. And we can find and filter the results in our niche, in any niche that we're looking at, by a variety of different things. And one of the best ways to do this, a hidden tip for everybody, is use the date filter or the age filter in Everbee. Set it to 12 months. And what that will do is when you go in and you run your bass fishing Christmas search, right? Bass fishing Christmas mugs or whatever it is, you can look at the stuff that you know was selling last year because the listing is older than 12 months. You can get an idea of what the demand was like last year, and that will help you with your planning because you already know your target. You know what the overall demand was last year, and you know that you can get a percentage of those sales. So if you're not using something like Everbee to validate your products, make sure that you go check them out. If you go to brandcreators.com/Everbee, you can take a free trial and get a few free searches that way. You'll get the hang of it. You'll figure it out. And I'm guaranteeing you that that is going to help you find and filter through these products. Scott, once you have those products, what do we do, right? We have to go into optimizing the sales. And this for me is a big one. This is something that people miss out on all the time. They throw up products and they just pray to the Etsy gods that the organic traffic is coming in. Well, that's not our strategy, right? And that's not the strategy you should be using. Yes, you know your profit, you know that number, you know what products you are launching. But if we're not doing a few things, we're leaving a lot of potential money on the table. So if we're talking about optimization, which is the third and final thing we should be thinking about, step number one here, and it should be obvious at this point to everybody, is setting up the internal discounts and triggers inside of the marketing tab in your Etsy store. Things like abandoned carts, favorites, thank you coupons. Make sure you are setting those up. Those not only lead to repeat customers, but they lead to increased sales, period. You get that abandoned cart rocking and rolling. You get to pick up an extra few percentage points in terms of your conversion rate. That can make all the difference, not just in terms of the Q4 sales numbers, but in terms of your organic rank, because we all know Etsy's algorithm loves more sales and they love conversion rate. So if we can set a few of those things up, great way to get started. Thing number two here, if we're not already running some seasonal sales and discounts, consider doing that. We don't have to do this all the time. And this is a question I know you and I get nonstop. is, hey, do I have to constantly run sales? Is this, an around the clock thing? It doesn't have to be, but think about doing it strategically throughout Q4. You can run a Halloween promotion, a Thanksgiving or a Black Friday promotion, and maybe a last week before Christmas type of a thing. You can set those up either for individual products or entire categories across your shop. What that's going to do, again, is just boost your conversion rate. Yes, you lose a little bit of the margin there because you're giving a discount when you set that up, but you are going to increase the overall number of sales coming into the store, which helps you get to that number faster. And even more importantly, you're acquiring a customer who can purchase from you again and again. Two things, Scott, I think that people miss out on from a sales optimization standpoint. I know people can probably put it in the comments before I say it, but thing number one is going to be running Etsy ads to in-demand products, right? And typically when we're talking about Q4, we're going to want to turn those on 45 to 60 days in advance at a minimum of what that holiday is going to be. So we want to make sure that we have those ads up and running. And we don't have to run these site-wide, but they should be for the things that are going to be in demand right now. So if we're coming up on Halloween, we should be running ads to those Halloween products to make sure we're capturing as much of that traffic as possible. Same thing goes for Thanksgiving and Christmas. The second thing from a sales optimization perspective, I think that people sleep on or miss out on is making sure that we have an email list. And if you guys are on Etsy, you don't have an email list, you can use Everbee actually to create that email list for you. They make it very simple. But once you have that list, Scott, it allows you to create some built-in traffic to drive to new items or your sales. And it just makes everything a lot more efficient. From a new item standpoint, the thing that Etsy is looking for their algorithm is traffic and sales. What's the best way to get that right off the bat? Well, yes, we should be turning on Etsy ads. I'm a huge fan of that. But if we have a built-in email list, then we can drive some initial traffic. And those people are actually the highest likelihood to convert of anybody because they know us, they trust us, and they've bought from us in the past in a lot of cases. And so if we can do that, that'll help us launch new items, but it also makes our sales and promotions that we're running, even if we're just doing it for something like Black Friday or Cyber Monday, a little bit effective. If you aren't sure of how to do this, I think a bonus tip here from a sales optimization perspective, Scott, would be to build that email list using a giveaway strategy. You and I have referred to this in the past as the fishbowl method. And essentially what we're doing is we're giving away something that is niche specific. So if we have some really cool bass fishing Christmas tree skirts, we're going to give those away in exchange for the email address. And we create a giveaway, we pick one winner. And then at the end of that giveaway period, we send an email to everybody who opted in. We said, hey, Scott Volker is the winner. But because everybody's a winner here at Chris's Bass Fishing Emporium, we wanted to give you 20% off anything in the store. And we can drive that traffic right over. We can create them either an individual promo code or just drive them over to a 20% site-wide sale. We get that traffic and sales, and we're able to do two things when we do that fishbowl method. One, we build the email list, which is that asset we can use again and again, like we were just talking about, to launch new products or promote our sales. But we also bring immediate awareness to the products that we are focused on. And so, Scott, if we can do just those three things and set up our Q4 plan now, we'll be set up for success. So just to recap really quickly, we need to reverse engineer that target. We need to know how much profit we're shooting for and work that back to how many sales per day we need. Once we have that number, we're going to look for the products that are in demand. If we have data from last year, let's use that. If we don't have data from last year, or we want to add in some new things, use something like Everbee to filter and find those products. Don't forget those add-on products, the things that go with other things, the luggage tags with luggage, to increase that even more and get your higher profit items up and running. Once we've done that, we know our target, we know our products, it's time to optimize sales, set up those internal marketing triggers, run a few sales and discounts, turn on those Etsy ads if you haven't already, and start building and sending